Views and opinions expressed in this production are those of the individual and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of Shooters Nation or our sponsors. Information provided on this show is not a replacement for legal counsel or professional training. Listener and viewer discretion is advised. This is especially true on live shows.
Welcome to the Shooters Nation podcast, the show created for you, the armed citizen. Join our hosts and subject matter experts as we talk about guns and gear, practical training and knowledge, Second Amendment issues, and the firearms culture. Be sure to join us after the show at shootersnation.com and become part of the Shooters Nation.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Shooters Nation podcast. I'm your host, David Yancey, coming to you from our studio just outside Nashville, Tennessee. And I'm joined once again by the man, the myth, the Kydex holster legend, my co-host extraordinaire, Mark Lancaster of Squared Away Customs. I just built you way the heck up because I'm excited to see you, man. It's been a while. It's been a minute. How are you?
I know, right? It's been a little while since we recorded. Yeah.
Yeah. Doing good?
I'm good. Been crazy busy as always, but doing good.
Good. Awesome. So, I want to know what's been happening, if anything. I know you've been you're making some exciting changes to Squared Away Customs. We can talk about that later. You know, we don't have to do it right now, but I know you've had your hands full, so we'll have to catch up soon.
I've just been busy plugging away, trying to open up some other options for people and kind of streamline everything. So, look for some changes on the website soon.
Awesome. Family's healthy. Everybody's good.
Yeah, everybody's great.
Awesome.
Yourself.
Glad. Yeah, we're doing good here. So we'll take care of some business real quick before we get going. Want to remind everybody that you can connect with us after the show at shootersnation.com. That's where you can send us feedback, submit ideas for future shows, sign up for our News Blast mailing list, and join the Shooters Nation forum. You can also follow us on Instagram as @ShootersNationRadio and on Facebook.com/ShootersNation. While you're over on Facebook, be sure to sign up for the Shooters Nation community. That's where you can interact with us, other listeners, and some of our guest SMEs. If you like what you're hearing and you want to support the show, you can do that and help make future episodes possible by becoming a Patreon patron at patreon.com/ShootersNation. And if you're like me and you like the word free, you can help support the show for free by leaving us a positive review on iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, YouTube, etc., spreading the word to your friends and family. And once again, give us feedback. Let us know how we're doing. Tell us what you want to hear on the show. So all that out of the way, golly, man, like really quick. I am ramped up tonight. So,
well done.
Yeah, thank you. Kind of like the Micro Machines guy. I don't know if you remember that from like the 80s, you know, the little dude that talked real fast on commercials. So
he's hopped up on Mountain Dew, Chip.
Hopped on, coming at you like a spider monkey.
But I'm surprised our guest remembers.
That's right. That's true. Oh my God. There's an ageism joke. So joining us tonight from way back in the day from episodes number 2 and number 8 is Ian Strimbeck of Runenation. Ian, welcome back to the show, my friend. How are you?
I'm doing great. It's always an honor to be on the show, so I appreciate you having me on, and things have been absolutely stellar since I've been last on. So again, thank you for having me.
You know, well, first of all, glad to have you back. Second of all, I don't know if I've told you this, but you know, all of our episodes have done consistently well with the listeners as far as, you know, like the ratings and the metrics of how many people have downloaded what. But there is clearly a noticeable spike on those 2 episodes that we've had with you because of the subject matter that we talked about. And, you know, we've had feedback, folks, you know, enjoyed hearing you talk on the podcast. So it's probably overdue having you back. And I apologize for not having done it sooner, but you've been a busy dude. So
you know, it's like I said, it's always an honor being on. You know, that's great with those spikes because you know, it lets me know that the information I'm putting out, people are listening to, and they're taking an ear to in regards to the business. Yeah, it's like I said, it's been crazy since I've been last on. This year, I think we're looking at 28 open enrollment classes for 2019, and that's not counting some closed enrollment stuff I'm doing for some law enforcement out in the Midwest. and some other law enforcement agencies in regards to the military that I'll be doing. So it's going to be one hell of a crazy year, but just got to keep grinding, pushing forward. And, because of individuals like yourself and Mark and everyone else who support me in the past, that's what makes the dream possible.
Yeah, man.
As they say. So thank you.
It's funny, absolutely. You're quite welcome. And I'm thrilled to have you back on. Part of the reason I'm so wound up tonight, I guess. But, it's funny that you talk about what motivates you, because we're going to really get into that conversation tonight. Folks, for those of you that are new to Shooters Nation, Ian is a veteran of the United States Marine Corps, where he conducted training to host nation forces in small unit tactics as an infantry rifleman, and is now the principal behind Runenation LLC. So, Ian, why don't you tell us a little bit about Runenation and what you're all about there?
Sure. So, Runenation is a consulting and education company that is specified on the multi-dimensional person who's looking to get training or education. It's a person that is looking for not just a rifle but the pistol, but also blade work, empty hand work, proper verbalization skills, and overall positive and gross mental development, throughout their entire life. Because I feel like a lot of companies in the training space are more focused on one thing, whether it be just a firearms or just blade work. And I try to really live by the ideal of a jack of all trades and a master of none. Because again, a firearm is just a solution for a very small problem. Am I saying that firearms aren't necessary? No, of course not. But at the same time, if all you have are firearm skills, that's always going to be the solution. When in reality, it may, be simply understanding the dynamics of violence, of understanding your general surroundings, of being able to read people, heuristic cues, pre-assault cues, of you just removing yourself from the area or the situation entirely, or maybe have some decent hands-on skills, whether it be grappling or striking work, so that a firearm may not be the immediate solution. It may be later on that fight, but if you were to say prematurely get that handgun out, it may present a whole nother slew of problems that you have to deal with.
Yeah. So, the feedback that we've heard from some of our listeners, they really like your angle of that multidisciplinary tactician, right? We've talked about that in the past, and particularly, the fact that with you, it's not all about guns. It's not go to guns immediately for any problem. Every problem's not a nail. Every solution's not a hammer. That, you've talked about de-escalation and avoidance and how to improvise weapons. We had a really good episode with you on how to improvise weapons and a self-defense plan in a workplace or some other non-permissive environment. And, that resonates with people, right? Because
absolutely.
What we're finding on Shooters Nation is maybe we've got a poorly named podcast, because our audience, they're interested in more than just shooting at things, like you, they're cognizant of that idea that not every solution requires a bullet. And, so we're reaching out to folks, thankfully, that, some of these folks don't even care about guns, but they're learning stuff from guests like you that prepare them to handle a situation without that. So,
yeah. And when an individual is starting out in this space of, say, self-defense, it is a large and very serious burden to carry.
Mm-hmm.
If you decide to, carry a handgun loaded on your person for the defense of yourself or your loved ones. And, I can't say for that specific individual when they're, competent to carry, it's going to be up to their judgment of their ability, so that if they need to perform on demand to that high level performance, that high level of accuracy, that they're going to be able to without a second thought.
Yeah.
Because if you, pause at that gate, if you pause in the doorway, then, stuff's about to probably go down negatively, in,
right.
in your immediate line of safety, in your immediate line of health. So being able to take that call and understand that there are other options out there, till you'll feel confident enough to carry that firearm. That's the best thing that I can give to people.
That's awesome. So I don't want to get any further before I mention your website. Folks, if you want to see what Ian's about, find out where his classes are, connect with him, avail yourself of the training opportunities that Ian offers, head over to runenationllc.com, right, Ian? and that's where they can find out more about you and the classes that you offer.
Yeah, I'm actually going to be down in your area because you're right. You're in Tennessee, correct?
I am. Yeah, just outside Nashville.
So I'll be in Tennessee in October, and
awesome.
then I'll be in Kentucky twice this year.
No kidding.
Be in Kentucky, Hartford, Kentucky this in a couple weeks in March, and then I'll be in Louisville, Kentucky, or around that area in May, and then like I said, in Tennessee in October,
awesome.
And then in North Carolina as well.
Golly, man. Yeah. So Hartford's kind of like middle of nowhere Kentucky. It's rural, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm born and raised in Kentucky, moved to Tennessee. I've actually been to Tennessee. I've been in Tennessee longer than I was a resident of Kentucky, even though I was born there. So
gotcha.
20-ish years in one, and then 20 more, or a little bit more than 20 in the other now. So cool. Man. Yeah, Hartford, I know exactly where that's at. So there was a long drive from a bank that I had to do some work in Hartford back to my hometown in Kentucky. So yeah, very familiar with Hartford. Yeah.
Cool.
Got a funny story. There's a lady at the McDonald's drive-thru at Hartford that we probably scarred for life. And I don't even want to admit, I'm not going to confess to that sin, but man, it was funny. It was inappropriate. There was a lot of laughing. She laughed because it was awkward, and she thought maybe she should laugh because we were laughing so hard. But yeah, bless her. I probably need to go back to Hartford and make amends one of these days. She's probably scarred for life. So, oh, well. All right. So core conversation tonight. Gents, I'm thinking that this is what I really want to talk about. I want to know where you find your motivation as a shooter, as a student, or an instructor for you, Ian, and as a participant in the Second Amendment and the armed lifestyle. So I think a lot of things are kind of like givens. I if you listen to the podcast, you're kind of like already in this subset of a demographic that's an armed citizen, or you're at least interested in it. So it's kind of like a foregone conclusion that, well, yeah, I'm just a Second Amendment person. I like guns, and that's fine. But I want to go deeper than that, because motivation is what carries you through the slump when you're not necessarily feeling it, right? And there's something else there that propels you. So, Ian, I know that you've got a particular interest in the aspect of what motivates or should motivate a student and an instructor. But from what I've seen of you on, particularly your Instagram feed, you're a pretty motivated dude in general, right? I mean, your daily schedule is pretty rigorous. And I don't know too many people who go dunk themselves in frozen, iced over streams as a form of disciplining mind and body, right? But you've done this. So tell me, before anything else, what the heck's all that about, the frozen stream swimming sessions?
I had a feeling that this topic would come up at some point. I was actually on a podcast about 3 weeks ago, and the same topic was brought up, and I kind of figured that would happen with.
We did not coordinate that, right? I mean, it's a thing that you do it. You post a video of it. I'm going to ask about it. So,
exactly. Yeah. So about a year, pretty much a year ago to I think it's going to be it's the second week in March. I started it up last year. And the method, or the idea behind it, is called the Wim Hof method.
Okay.
And it was presented to me by an individual at my school that I did jujitsu with. And he talked about it for a while. I rolled my eyes. I'm like, okay, dunking myself in frozen water and breathing. Like, okay, yeah, whatever. And he's like, no, trust me, go on YouTube. There was a documentary on Vice about him. So I go on there, watch the 45-minute documentary. And it's about a guy from Holland that they basically call the Iceman. He called him the Iceman because he's broken numerous world records in regards to dunking himself and swimming underwater, to a point where he was actually in the Arctic Ocean. They cut out a piece of the ocean ice, and he swam under it a certain amount of feet on one breath with literally just goggles on, like just swim trunks, goggles, and on just one breath of air. And he said it was so cold when he did it that his retinas actually froze over, regardless of the little goggles on or not. And after he got out, there were scientists there waiting for him, and his core temperature remained unchanged whatsoever. And obviously, the scientists thought, he's a freak of nature. This is impossible. So they purposely injected him with a virus. And through his methodology of breathing and everything else, he was able to fight off the virus without any type of medication or anything whatsoever. And again, they said, you're a freak of nature. So he took 10 of his peers, and I'm not going to say followers, it makes it sound like it's a cult, but basically 10 people that studied under him previously, only 2 weeks ago. They'd only been doing the breathing and the cold water therapy for 2 weeks, and they did the same thing to him. They injected them with a virus, and they were all able to fight it off. And after watching it, it really opened my mind as to what the human body is capable of. And I feel like, with the modern times that we live in, it's kind of double-edged sword, because we're able to communicate, over this computer right here. We're able to do a podcast. We're in different states. If you were, say, in California or the West Coast, we'd still be able to do it, and
Right.
that's just crazy in the grander scheme of things. But I feel like because of that, overall, as a society, we've kind of forgotten, what the human body itself is truly capable
Yeah,
of.
we've gotten so reliant on technology, right? So
at some point in time, our ancestors, fought and bled and killed other clans across the frozen tundra for thousands of years, so that our bloodline could to continue on to this very moment in time. Like if your great ancestor, grandfather, whatever, died in battle, you wouldn't be here today. In some grander aspect of things.
Right.
So I saw that. I saw his breathing methodology, because basically it's a combination of breathing and then subsequently getting into some type of cold water therapy. And cold water therapy has been known for many years to be proven to help with, for post-workout. That's why
Sure.
a lot of gyms now have like crowd chambers. I've never done a crowd chamber. I know a lot of, big name gyms have them, but basically it helps out post-workout. It's good for the creation of brown fat in your body. Basically, scientists still really don't know what brown fat is or where it's really specific in the body. It's kind of randomized, but basically the main parts of it into the body is in kind of your back, near your shoulder blades, and basically the upper part of your chest, where the brown fat's stored, and that's what helps keep you warm.
Huh.
So by doing cold water therapy, it actually helps grow the brown fat in theory. And again, I'm probably murdering the terms, and some person that's a scientist actually watching this rolling their eyes. But basically it helps out with that. And as a man, it keeps you more virile for your lady out there.
I'm ovulating right now just hearing you talk about this. So, right.
And it's just overall, like, again, in the macro and the grander scheme of things, it helps you just have an easier day. Like if I can jump in a freezing cold shower for 3 to 5 minutes at 4 a.m, anything else in my day after that is a cakewalk. Because it's not necessarily the cold water that hurts your body. It's if you get out of rhythm, out of the breathing that you do prior. Like if I remain unfocused in there, like if I get distracted and I think of something I need to do that day, it's horrible. Like I want to jump out of the shower.
Right.
And if you're able to control that fight or flight scenario in your brain by breathing, like, because obviously it's cold, your body is like, get out, it's freezing cold water. There's no reason for me to be in here. And if you're able to control that, then again, it makes anything else in your life just that much easier. And I know it sounds stupid because it's like you're just talking about just going in cold water, but to a point where I was able to, in that video, obviously I've been doing this for a while. I don't recommend anybody jumping into freezing cold mountain water if you've never done this before, because that's extremely dangerous. But I've been doing it for a while, and it was to a point where the air temperature was 17 degrees outside, and I was able to put myself in that water for 4 minutes. And honestly, the only reason I got out was because regardless of your breathing technique, the first things that go, obviously, in cold water are your dexterity of your hands and your feet. And the current was so strong that if I was going to be in there any longer, it felt like I just had stumps for hands and feet. So I couldn't really grab on anything. So I was like, all right, I'm going to get out now because I don't want to be, dragged away by this frozen river.
Right.
And afterwards, it wasn't the cold water. Well, like I said, because I'm used to going in cold water, it was actually getting back into heat and having the blood come back to my hands and my feet. That was what actually sucked.
I bet.
It wasn't the actual, it was pretty bad.
Mark, you do this kind of stuff, man? I mean, you're up in the Great White North too. So
yeah, no, I mean, I've done some, what are the, polar plunge or cold dips or whatever you want to call them.
Yeah.
I definitely have. And he's right. It's the cold sucks, but the getting back to temperature, like it burns.
Oh yeah.
Like your skin is burning. It's almost deeper than your skin though, because it doesn't feel like surface.
No, it's
it
nerve,
feels like,
man. It's down to the nerve. Easy.
It's not a good feeling.
Yeah, I mean, I'll brag a minute. I washed my car in the cold the other day, and it was kind of It's kind of cold, right? So
regardless with how my hands, my feet were, the core, I was still warm. Like there was actually steam coming off of me.
Yeah.
In that moment, in that ocean water. And again, obviously I don't expect everybody to go to the level that I was with this cold water and breathing stuff, but I really feel like some type of meditation, whether it be, if you do yoga, like I do yoga as well, again, it may not be for everybody, but some form of relaxation of the brain and working the brain itself, I feel like has so many positive aspects that people don't properly realize. Because again, in this society, we're always go, go, go. Whether you're a small business owner, whether you work for a corporation, it's always go, go, go. Whether you're rushing out the door to work, whether you're rushing through work at work, rushing through your lunch break, rushing from work, dealing with the kids, dealing with the family, you go to bed and then you reset and do it all over again.
Yep.
And I feel like just a few minutes out of your day, whether in the morning or in the night, to just focus on you and to kind of decompress. Obviously we like to decompress with beer. I do.
Yep.
And I'm not saying that's, you can't use that as well, but just something that focuses on the idea of mental preparation, mental relaxation, I really think can open your mind to just greater things than you believe that you're capable of.
I agree. Mark, have you got a beverage tonight? I'm sipping on some Four Roses single barrel. Ian, what have you got?
I have a coffee stout.
Oh, there you go.
603.
Yep, 603. The bean brown ale.
Nice.
When I was out in Arizona last weekend, this past weekend, they really have any good beers out there. So,
Mark, what are you doing tonight? Oh, yeah.
I have the Benjamin Pritchard's Double Barrel. A gift from our friend Jordan and our friend James gave it to me last week.
You've put a dent in that bottle, man. I mean, this
bottle is, this has got to be in my top 3 bourbons. I had a few glasses of Pappy when I was in Vegas for SHOT Show this year.
Right.
And I'm enjoying this more than than the crazy expensive Pappy. This is really good. This is a top 3, absolute top 3 favorite.
That is distilled in Kelso, Tennessee, which is about 30 minutes south of me. So
yes, anybody that's a bourbon fiend, Benjamin Pritchard's Double Barrel.
That's awesome.
It's fantastic
That's
stuff.
a good gift. You must have some really good dirt on James and Jordan. That is
favors, my friend. Favors.
That's right. That's awesome. So I have to ask, did the missus, has she tried that yet? Did she enjoy it? Because I know, Mark, yours is a lot like mine in the sense that she likes beer, dark beers and things like that, right? So,
yeah, she does. Yeah. But like since Sawyer's been here, it was a year last week. She doesn't relax. So
yeah. I can understand that.
Not in the cards right now.
Right. No, I understand it. Yeah, Ian, that makes me sad. The 603 looks delicious. I freaking miss beer. I do. And I was telling you guys before we started recording, I'm like 5 weeks into a carnivore diet, like purely carnivore. And the one thing I miss most, I thought I was going to miss pizza or Mexican food or something like that. But what I miss the most is beer. It's sad.
Mm-hmm.
My wife will pour a glass in the evening after the kids have all gone to bed. And I'm just like, I guess I'll have some bourbon. Yeah. So I miss beer. Yeah. All right. And it's not strange. It's not strange at all what you're talking about. Cause another thing I was telling you guys about, I started binge listening to this Cleared Hot podcast by Andy Stumpf, a former Navy SEAL, with John Dudley, who's a world record, or a medalist Olympian archer and a hunter and so forth. And they were talking about the cold showers and cold water and starting off that. And I think one of the things that they made a comment of, and it's funny that we kind of talked about this. I wasn't even thinking about it in this context when I put that in the questions I wanted to ask you, Ian, was that it's like, if you're incapable of pushing yourself out of your comfort zone just for a few minutes in cold water, where are you holding yourself back elsewhere in your life? Because you're exactly. so addicted to comfort. You made a comment, I don't have to be in this water. I don't have to do this. I could take a warm shower, right?
Yeah. And again, I don't, like, in the day and age we live in, I don't have to work out. I don't have to, I could theoretically just be a bump on a log on a couch. Like, there's really no means for me to better myself. Like, sure, would I have better cardiovascular strength? And, if I'm involved in a violent altercation, yeah, obviously it's better to be fit. But again, in the grander scheme of things, for the most part, you really don't have to anymore. Like, we're not fighting off like ravenous tribes or saber-toothed tigers anymore. We live in a very docile society. So I feel like getting back in touch with the primal abilities that the human animal is capable of really, again, opens your eyes to what you're truly capable of. And I feel like, putting yourself in a adverse and uncomfortable position really helps you out in every aspect of life. And as it's been said in the past, you need to get comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Well, Entitled America has made it so nobody is ever uncomfortable at all, ever. And if they are, all they have to do is bitch about it, and it gets made right, and they get their trophy for 7th place.
Right.
Absolutely. And I always, somebody always gets the saying right. I can never remember it, but what is it? Good times harbor easy men, or
David knows this one.
Yeah, I'm gonna mangle it, but yeah, it's easy times. Basically, hell, I'm gonna mangle it now that you told me I know this one. We've coded it before, so it's just basically the fact that easy times lead to soft men, and then soft men lead to hard times, and hard times lead to rough men, and then the cycle continues, right? So
there we go.
Where are we right now? And I think I just kind of got it all in reverse, but here's the quote. I just found it. Thank you, Google. Hard times create strong men. Strong men create good times. Good times create weak men, and weak men create hard times, So it is it's a progression.
Right at that bottom tipping point. I'm not a tinfoil hat wearer or anything like that, but I do feel like at some point something's got to give. And I feel like because we've fought through so much in the past that we have good times. And I'm not saying that we should live back in a day where the Black Plague is prevalent. We have no electricity, and we have to fight off ancient giant mastodon creatures. But I feel like at the same time, people, it would be pretty cool.
I bet I can eat those. I bet they're like high in protein.
But again, I feel like people have kind of lost touch of that, of the primal aspect of violence, and again, what we're capable of as humans. And I feel like because of the day and age that we're in, a lot of people that don't believe in the idea of self-protection or firearms or anything else. Yeah. For whatever reason, believe that we're above violence, or we're at such a
we're gentrified now
level.
Yeah,
we're such a high. Exactly, that we don't need violence anymore. And obviously, as you and I and Mark and everyone else that listens to this podcast knows, that's complete nonsense. Humans have been killing other humans since we emerged from caves. Since the first caveman was like, "Hey, I want that piece of meat," and the caveman said, "No, that's mine." He said, "Okay, cool. I'm going to take this stone and beat you dead with it. I'm going to take your meat." And that's what he did.
Yeah,
and that was like the first act of killing.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's just evolved since then. The tools may have changed to get to the end result, but the overall aspect of violence, creating harm to another human being, is still around. That hasn't changed at all.
Yeah. So good segue into some questions I have for you guys. What are some things that typically motivate a person to take on the lifestyle change and significant responsibilities that come with being an armed citizen, right? I mean, so Ian, let's start with you from an instructor's vantage point. What are some of the things that you're seeing? And I mean, we don't have to talk real long about this, but I'm sure like there's some bullet point items that, this is what you're seeing that motivates a person to go through the hassle of becoming armed.
I think it really comes down to that individual person's why, or the passion behind why they're owning a firearm. And it really, splits the difference between the person that just wants a firearm to per se collect it or show it off or plink at the range, or somebody who literally owns a firearm because they understand that aspect of violence that we just talked about, that they understand that if somebody comes and wants to take something from them that they're not authorizing, that they are able to say no more, and do what's necessary to come home at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And obviously they have to be within the legal right, because regardless of how good of a shoot or end result of whatever violent act you're in, there is a lawyer attached to the end of that.
Yeah.
So obviously we still have to be in the legal right for whatever that we do. But I truly feel that, that person has, had the shades raised above their eyes, or maybe unfortunately they were previously in an incident that involved violence upon them or their loved ones, and they were able to get out or survive it, and now they don't want to ever have to go through that again. But regardless, I feel like people that come to my class are there because they are willing to learn. Like, I have yet to have a student in my class that rolls their eyes or doesn't want to be there. Everyone has paid good money. They took time off from work, time away from their family, drove X amount of distance, paid for the ammo, paid for the tuition, paid for the gear, maybe paid for a hotel stay if they're driving so far. So everybody there has a direct reason as to why they want to come to class, because they want to be a better shooter. But at the end result, like I explain at the end of all my classes, it's more than just the shooting. If you can run and gun, shooting and moving, deal with reloading, deal with malfunction clearing, deal with processing, cognitive information, task processing, everything else involved, then that board meeting that you've been stressing out about for the past 2 weeks they have to deal with on Monday is going to be a cakewalk. And again, I feel like people that don't understand firearms or the gun world just view it as a violent tool to cause death to another human being or creature or whatever else, but I feel like in the grander scheme of things, it's confidence building. Like, sure, it's a firearm, it goes bang, it can cause deadly harm to another individual, but at the same time, in the grander scheme, it's confidence building. It's being able to take somebody from point A to point B and me come with them the entire way, from me to be right next to them to say, hey, fix these little critiques. And, they may have started out in the morning with barely being able to get a good grip on the firearm. And by 5 o'clock that day, they're running, gunning, having a proper grip, reloading, getting those good headshots, getting those good body shots, processing information, doing all of that together. And sure, there may be somebody in the class that started out, with shooting for 20 years, and they may have started out, buying the gun 2 weeks prior, but at the end of those 8 or so hours, they're at a significantly higher level of skill regardless. And that, for me, is what I'm looking for when I go out there and teach. Yeah.
You mentioned confidence, and I was thinking about, jujitsu, Jocko Willink and these other dudes on the other podcasts talk about it a lot. And, even, I've heard other martial artists with different disciplines, Krav Maga and stuff, talk about that, but the confidence that there's a certain visceral confidence that comes for men or women in knowing that they can handle their business, right? And like if push came to shove, they can handle it. So then when they go, and they square off across the negotiating table at work, with a client or with a competitor or a peer in their company, and they're trying to broker some sort of agreement, that confidence is rooted deep inside their brain. That somewhere deep inside they may not be thinking about it, but they're aware of, I could take this person, right? I could put them in a headlock.
100%.
Right. And I mean, you negotiate from a different perspective there. So
exactly. Confidence drives everything. And I cannot get this point across enough, whether it be in classes or in my videos or my posts. Like, confidence drives everything in life, whether it be as a student, whether it be, in your, if you're a small business owner, if you own a small business, in your family life, as a husband, as a wife, being able to confidently, keep that marriage or that relationship alive. Same thing if you have a child, being able to bridge that gap of confidence that you have in your child and child has in you, as well as just overall, like you have to know that when you pull that gun, if you need to,
right,
that when you break that trigger and that round goes down range, that you have 100% certainty that where that round is going. That just comes through the confidence in your abilities and obviously having purpose behind each and every time you go to the range.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. Mark, you're kind of nodding, man. What are you thinking there? You got?
No, I completely agree with the confidence side of things. I mean, when I'm thinking back at like previous careers and stuff like that, it's like, I've been in sales my whole life, but commission paid salesperson, like confidence is everything. And I know, like, in the beginning when you start, you're not confident at all, and you're nervous and you're messing up and you're not doing well. But it's like, once you get your legs underneath you a little bit, you start learning your product. It's like fuel. The better you do, the stronger you are, the more you're confident in what you're doing, and the more you attack. Yeah. And the more successful you are. But yeah, it's across a wide spectrum of life that the confidence is absolutely helpful.
I think the advantage that the firearm has over, learning a skill like jujitsu, and again, not saying that there's a one size fits all solution to every problem, right? But the firearm, anecdotally, we always hear about it. It's the great equalizer. An 80-pound woman, an 80-pound, 80-year-old woman can hold her own against a 200-pound athletic adversary if she's armed with a gun, and there's a lot of truth in that. But I think another aspect of it is that a person can probably become fundamentally competent and have some confidence quicker with a firearm than you can, say, with jiu-jitsu. With jiu-jitsu or another martial art, you got to put in your time, and you're gonna suck at it, and you're gonna have an elbow in your throat from a more seasoned adversary for a while you're rolling on the mat. But I or you or Mark could take a person out to the shooting range, and with just a little bit of instruction, they can experience that surge of confidence that comes from, I held the gun, I aligned the sights, I pulled the trigger, and oh my God, the bullet hole went right in, where I was aiming. Right. And, there's a lot more to that journey on the other side of that to take them to being truly competent, but they can get a taste of it quicker, I think, with firearms instruction perhaps than they can with others. And frankly, there's folks that are physically maybe limited and they can't go, partake of a martial art, but they can learn how to defend themselves with a firearm with proper instruction, especially around the when you shall and when you shall not kind of thing. Right. And there's confidence that comes from that too. So, just knowing when you can and when you can't. So
absolutely. And I feel like, when it comes to those that come to a class, you can tell the person that, this is their first class. They, maybe weren't the most popular in school. Maybe they were picked on, or maybe they just don't really have good of a social life, or they're just trying to find themselves. And I find out a lot about that during the class. Like, obviously, well, not obviously, but for those you don't know, like I basically sent a very basic pre-questionnaire online when I have somebody sign up for a class, and just kind of like your skill level, what you're looking for, stuff like that. So I have a general idea of, the people that come in the class. But overall, throughout those 8 hours, I'm slowly picking away at that person. When we're back here loading, or I'm on the line with them, or during lunch break, or this or that. And you can just see that the aura, like, I know it sounds corny, but you can just see their shoulders roll back, and they perk up their chest. And like I said, by the end of the day, and we're doing the debrief, they're just a complete different person.
That's awesome.
And it's just, and for me, like that is my fuel to literally, like I said, take somebody from point A to point B who has, very limited or no confidence, and for them to leave those 8 hours fundamentally changed for the better.
That is awesome.
So that, again, they can go and attack their social life better, their work life. Maybe, this is an eye opener for them. Like, hey, I'm getting winded doing those very simple drills of movement. Maybe I need to go to the range, and now I'm potentially making them have a longer, healthier, and better sustained life.
Very true.
And in the end, that's what I'm looking for. And in the macro, again, the grander scheme of things, is I'm building relationships when I go to these classes. I'm not just there to run my mouth, have them shoot drills, take their money, and tell them to go home. Like, I literally want these people to be able to reach out to me at any point in the day, 24/7, 365, email, phone number, whatever it is. Call me if you have a question about gear, whatever it may be, because I am their resource. Now, you come to my class, you pay good money, you take away time from your family, I am yours forever.
Yeah, so you're not just like, hey, welcome to the journey, kick you out of the nest, little bird, fly. I mean, you want to be on that journey with them, right? So
exactly. Yeah. 100%.
There's a difference between servicing your customer and turning and burning them.
True. Very
exactly.
True. Mark, I mean, you've seen that, I'm sure, in the industry, right? So, from a different perspective, I mean, I'm not asking you to trash anybody or competitors, so we'll just keep it very general. But I mean, tell me if I'm wrong. You've probably seen other companies that are fly by, they're flash in the pan, fly by night, here today, gone tomorrow, because they wanted to come in, turn a profit, and customer best interest be damned, right? So,
well, yeah, I mean, it's not only like the here today, gone tomorrow, but it's also like the guy that's like, it's after 5 o'clock. There's not a chance in hell I'm answering my phone.
Huh.
Whereas I've been in the middle of this podcast before, muted my mic and answered the phone.
Yep, seen it. It's happened.
You know what I mean?
Had to edit it out.
And that level of customer service doesn't come because of the money. It comes because it comes because I give a damn.
Yeah.
And these customers are what feeds my family.
Right.
And it's what feeds, Corey and in his lifestyle and everything that he's doing, and without them, I mean, that's all we have. Right. I mean,
right.
What the hell good is our website without the customer?
No, I mean, and no joke. I've seen you do it.
I have always been a successful in doing whatever I am, but a lot of it has always been, I've always claimed that, like, if I can just meet the guy, shake his hand, get to know him, I can put this together. I can make this happen. I can smooth this over. I can make the sale, so on and so forth. But it's a completely different animal because I'm not meeting any of my customers, very few,
right.
A small percentage, maybe 5%. That's probably a huge number, probably more like 2%. I actually meet and I actually can handshake and I can actually have some sort of a personal connection. So somehow I need to be able to earn your business, make a sale, deliver a product, retain you as a customer, and get you to come back and buy more without ever talking to you.
Right.
Yeah. Right. So all that I can go off is a reputation of the guy that's going to answer his phone at 9 o'clock at night on a Thursday.
Yeah.
And
rare.
help me with the issue because my kydex is too tight or my package came damaged or, so on and so forth. Who knows?
Right.
Or we made a righty and it should have been a lefty,
Yeah.
These little things, but they happen, So, I mean, unfortunately, I'm not in the type of business where I can shake that hand, look that guy in the eye and thank them for their business. So I do what I can on my end. And it's never going to be, I never do it good enough. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I'm always beating myself up to do better.
So that's your personal assessment.
Yeah. And providing gear faster and getting faster response times and, all these things, but so much time of the day and I do my best.
Right. Yeah. I mean, there's a common trait between both of you guys. Ian, no joke. I've seen this guy and I kind of, no joke. We paused the podcast one night. He got an email from a customer about a holster and I think it was the light didn't fit. And Mark was like, "Hey, can we time out? I gotta deal with this." I'm like, "Yeah, cool, dude. Right? That's your livelihood. Go do it." So I sat here, drank some more bourbon or something. Meanwhile, Mark works through it with the guy and like goes and gets a holster, gets a gun, gets the light. Takes a picture, sends it to the guy. Look, this is how this would have worked. Show me your light. Send me a picture of it. Turned out that the guy had unwittingly, bought by no fault of his own a counterfeit light. And, Mark then said, "Hey, I've seen this before. Here's how it works. Here's what the possible solutions are." So, there's an investment of time and energy into that relationship to take care of a customer because it's more than just wanting to send a dude a holster and like, "Hey, you ordered what you ordered. Not my fault you had a counterfeit." With you, Ian, it's not, "Hey, class was over 2 weeks ago on Sunday night at 7 p.m. We're past that. If you want more instruction, swipe that credit card."
But with my story, it's even more than that because I paid to ship it to him, a $59 holster, shipped it to him. It didn't fit right. So I immediately, no questions asked, just ship him a return label. So another $7.40. He ships it back. I test fit it, maybe a little snug for his liking. So we loosened it up a little bit. So I pay another $7.40 to ship it back to him. And he gets it and he's still having problems. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, I test fit this personally. This was basically a bucket when it left here.
How can
you
this
turn
happen?
down the gun and shake it, the gun's falling out. Like, how could this not be fitting? And I was just like, stop everything. I got to take this. I got to figure this out. So yeah, I mean, that's why it's important. For me anyway, you've got to service and you've got to make them feel important.
So let me flip the question a little bit. Ian, this may be more for you, but what are some things that should motivate the customer in your case, the person, the student, to obtain higher proficiency through training? I mean, can you kind of just, quick soundbite on that? What is it that you think, maybe think of it this way, not what are the reasons they're giving you, but what reason can you give them to seek higher proficiency through training beyond the carry permit?
You can always be better.
Okay.
And regardless to any aspect of life, again, because again, I even though this is what I do, and it's what I love, and it's what I teach.
Yeah.
It's not just about the gun. Any aspect of what you learn in a firearm, can be modified, like I said, to any various aspect of life, the gym, mats, the workspace, family life, whatever. And you can always be better. You can always be a better husband. You can always be a better wife. You can always be better at the gym, on the mats. You can always be a better shooter. You can always be a better student. And to think that, yep, I take my concealed carry class, this is it, I'm good. You are absolutely setting yourself up for failure.
Right.
And again, like we talked about in the beginning of the show, it's just because people get too comfortable. I view comfort, this is the best way I put it. I view comfort as like a drug, in regards to once you have it once, it's kind of hard to stop. It's too good to stop. It's like being a junkie. You just want one more hit, one more minute on the couch, one more minute in bed, one more, day off from the gym. And then before you know it, you're months out from your last time at the gym. You sleep in until you have to rush out the door. You sit on the couch all day, when you get home from work, and that's just your life. And it's really difficult to get out of it, because the only way to get yourself out of comfort is, again, to put yourself into a uncomfortable or places of discomfort.
Right.
And obviously, as a modern human being, your brain and your overall lifestyle tells you not to do that. I want to do something that's easy.
Yeah, we want our lazy boy in our our bunny slippers and our heated seats in our car and all that stuff, right? So, it 100%. And it just comes down to that individual understanding that if they are willing to go the extra step to go through the process of obtaining a firearm, licensed carry, the concealed carry class, owning it, carrying it, then it is your right to own that firearm, but it is your responsibility to get the proper and the constant and purposeful training behind it. Because if not, you are being negligent, okay? And you're definitely being anything but an asset to those, to your immediate family and those around you. So, Ian, I got a question for you, man. What motivates you as a trainer? Hey folks, David here. Did you know that there is more to the Shooters Nation than this podcast? Mark and I are working hard to knit together a community of well-informed, responsibly armed citizens who are well prepared to face the worst days of their lives. We would like to invite you to join us and the other listeners on our various social media outlets and become an active part of the Shooters Nation community. You can find us on Instagram as @ShootersNationRadio. And if Facebook is your thing, you can find us there at facebook.com/ShootersNation. While you're there, be sure to click on the link to join our Facebook Shooters Nation community. And as always, you can head over to shootersnation.com for more listener resources. So, Ian, I got a question for you, man. What motivates you as a trainer, right? Because I have no doubt that you could probably go do something else with your time and your experiences and your knowledge, and maybe make more money and have a lot less time on the road, right? So, what is it that for you, this is your why? This is why you invest in training other people.
My why is the passion that I have behind, waking up every single morning. And like I said, spending long times on the road, sometimes being up for 46 hours straight, which we'll go into obviously at some point during this podcast.
Yeah.
But kind of my probably greatest fear as to why I do what I do is an individual being out there concealed carrying, not having the proper education because they didn't go to a class, and they pull pull that firearm and they think that they're in the right and they think that they're on target when in reality they're not performing to that high performance level, that high level of accuracy. And they end up pulling around, hits little Susie down the street, and now they're in jail for murder of a bystander. And that situation could have been prevented if, per se, they had gotten the proper training, per se, from me, for instance. And because maybe I wasn't putting myself out there, in certain locations across the country, or I wasn't marking myself good enough, maybe that's why they weren't able to pick up the class.
Right. So,
and because of that, now they're, going to be in jail, for the next 10, 15, 20, maybe, even a lifetime, depending on how bad it was.
So it's not all tour buses and, after parties and stuff like that as a firearms trainer traveling the United States, right? So you've had a week, man. I said we were going to get into this. I almost forgot it. And it's kind of miserable, right? So tell me and Mark what your week was like coming back from your last class.
Okay, so I was in Phoenix, Arizona this past weekend. I was teaching at the Casa Grande law enforcement range. Shout out to Brian, who opened up the range to me. Really great guy. He's a local law enforcement officer in the Casa Grande area. They have a great facility out there. They're hosting a lot of big name instructors this year. Brian's been really honored about getting an Instagram page up and everything else.
Very cool.
So he's been doing his due diligence to get really good training in that location. So I flew out there. I didn't get there until Friday night because my flight got delayed, and my lovely wife, which I'm sure she'll roll her eyes after she listens to this, put me up in the, let's say, less than stellar area of Phoenix, in a less than stellar motel.
You're equipped, man. You can handle it.
and it was about an hour plus from the range. So I had to leave an hour early. I teach the class on Saturday. Cool. Come back, do the same thing Sunday, wake up at 6 a.m. on Sunday, head out there, close up the class around 6 at night, come back, get dinner, shower, change, pack, and then I have a flight out on Monday morning at 2 a.m. So basically kind of still, in my mind, still Sunday. So it's a red eye.
Yeah. So
from Phoenix to Charlotte. So I land in Charlotte and turn my phone back on, get a notification saying my flight from Charlotte to Manchester, New Hampshire has been canceled. Awesome. So the next flight out is until 2:30. Mind you, this is 8 in the morning and this has happened. So I'm like, no, I want another option. Get me out of here.
Planes, trains, and automobiles. Get me home.
Exactly. So,
right.
so I talked to the customer service person. They say they can get me to Philly at 11. So cool. I jump on the plane to Philly. I land there, and my connecting out of Philly isn't until 9 at night. But she said, talk to the lady there so you can get an earlier flight. So talk to the lady when I'm in Philly. Says they can get me on a flight at 4:30 in the afternoon. I think it's still Monday at this point. And cool. So I'm sitting there waiting to go have lunch. I'm all happy, that I'm going to be going home finally. And then 3:50 rolls around, 10 minutes to 4 rolls around, and I get another notification saying that flight's been canceled. And if you weren't watching the weather, it's because there were these crazy high winds.
We were getting the brunt of all the reason why down here.
So basically anything up in this area, up as far as Burlington, Vermont, all flights were canceled. And it's basically because they used little puddle jumpers from Philly or New Jersey to New Hampshire, these little, tiny planes that would just get rocked all over the place. So they said because of that, the next flight out is until Tuesday at 9:30 in the morning with a connection to DC. So not only is it the next morning, but it's also a non-direct flight. So I said, screw that. Give me my bags. I'm getting a rental car and I'm driving home.
Right.
I want a refund. They said, well, we can't do a refund. It has to be done online. But what we can give you is a $12 voucher so you can go get a Red Bull on your drive home.
Nice.
Thank you. Go and spit in my face too while you're at it.
Right.
So I go get the energy drink. And because I'm not the only one that's doing this, it's a 2+ hour wait to get the baggage because they're sifting through, looking for certain baggage for people. So 2 hours later, still can't find it. Mind you, this is not only my duffel bag, well, my personal stuff, my gun belt and everything else, but also my case with $5,000 worth of firearms in it. No idea where it is.
Oh my God.
Well, it hasn't been scanned. We have no idea where it is. I'm running back and forth between terminals trying to figure out where it actually is. Finally, 4 hours later, they say, oh, yeah, it hopefully is already in Manchester. I got on an earlier flight.
Oh, my God.
Wasted. Sitting around for them to tell me it's not even there. So finally, I hop in a rental car at 8:30 at night on Monday, and I drive straight through all the way to Manchester, New Hampshire, because I obviously have to get my bag still and my truck, which is parked at the airport.
Right.
So I don't arrive there until 1:30 in the morning on Tuesday. And thankfully, like talking about how we were talking about earlier about people going the extra mile and caring about your job, the woman there at American Airlines, thankfully, her name's Nicole, shout out to Nicole if she's listening, stayed out an hour plus her scheduled workday for waiting for me. Because obviously if it's regular luggage, they'll deliver it to your house at any hour.
Yeah.
But because it's a firearm, I have to physically be there to pick it up.
Yep.
They can't just deliver it to me. So if she wanted to be a jerk and say, well, I work my work day, you can come back and get it the next day, I would have had to come back someday this week, an hour and a half drive to get it. But thankfully, she stayed there, had my luggage, everything intact. I dropped my rental car, I get in my truck, and finally, I rest my head on the pillow finally at 4 a.m. on Tuesday.
And then you got up at 4:30 to exercise, didn't you?
No, I slept until like...
No, he went late in the river.
Went late in the river.
I slept until like 2:00 in the afternoon that day. Like I was just like, it was crazy.
Man, that sucks.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. While you were in the middle of that.
That was probably my worst travel experience ever.
So, I mean, you have to be motivated by something personal to go through that kind of crap, right? But yeah, while you were in the middle of that, I almost texted you and told you my story, and I thought, nah, he doesn't want to hear this. But like, we had flown back from Arizona, from Colorado through Arizona. No, that's not right. We flew directly back from Colorado, hit Nashville International at like 11 o'clock at night, and got on the shuttle bus to take us to the parking lot to come back to our car. And I'd flown out there with, a Glock 19 and an M&P Shield and, a bunch of mags and some knives and stuff. And they were all in a Pelican case stuck inside of a rolling suitcase, right? And so, of course, it had all been declared and handled by the TSA. So it was all above board, not like I smuggled it. But, I hop on get my bags off the carousel, hop on the shuttle bus with the wife and the kid, and we're heading back to the car. Well, there was one other passenger on the shuttle bus. And, I'm sure you've been on an airport shuttle bus, they got like a luggage, rack that you throw your crap on, right?
Yeah.
So I'm sitting there right behind the luggage rack, and the passenger, we come to his car first. He hops off, grabs his bags, bails, gets in his car. And like, I see the guy leaving as they're making the circuit back to where we're parked. We hop out. We get up. I grab the luggage off the rack. And I'm like, this is in my bag. I'm like, dude, that guy took my rolling, luggage. And of course the shuttle bus driver was like, oh, that's fine, man. He'll sort it out. He'll call you. He's like not wanting to go the extra mile. Yeah. I'm like, no, you don't understand. There's a gun in that bag. And that dude was like, what? I'm like, gun in that bag. He's got my gun. Like, I flew with a gun. I need to go get it. So we go chase the guy down. Wrong. He's gone. Calling him on his cell phone, had to go back to the ticket counter, all that garbage, right? Long story short, this dude was so smoked tired that he drove straight home to another friggin' state, gets home, realizes he doesn't have his bag, and he's got a message from me on his phone. He's got a message from the police, the airport police. He's got a message from the Metro Nashville police, and everybody's like, you need to bring that back right now. There's a firearm in there, and that firearm's not registered to you. So you're now, and like the cops, scared him that you're now committing a felony. And so this dude turns around with no sleep or anything and drives back to Tennessee to drop it off. And I'm like, that's actually not true. You didn't have to tell him that, right? But yeah, I mean, that poor guy, we got it back. But man, flying with a gun, it can be a real pain in the butt. So
yeah, that's honestly probably the first, I'm going to knock on wood here.
Right,
that's probably the first time that it's been pretty bad. Like honestly, people always ask me all the time, people, say at my jiu-jitsu gym that aren't really too familiar with firearms, like, oh, how hard is it to fly with firearms? And the grander scheme of things, it really isn't.
Not too bad.
As long as you, you declare it and have everything in place, and you know the procedures. And obviously, for me, there is, from my perspective, with how many different airports I go to, there is no consistent procedure. Every TSA at every airport runs it differently.
Yep.
But in the end, as long as you don't make last minute changes, like I did 3 times, then I've had pretty good success. If I'm not paying attention to the woman at the ticket counter initially when I fly out and they don't put a tag on it, that's when I was flying down to Georgia, and because they didn't tag it correctly, it ended up being on the carousel.
Oh, wow.
Obviously.
Yeah.
But that was the one time. That's because it was on, obviously it was her fault, but it was on me too for not paying closer attention that she didn't tag it properly when it was checked in. But outside of that, it really isn't too big of a deal as long as you have a good quality case and you understand that you are the one in charge of the key. You don't pass it off to people or pass it off to TSA, no matter what they tell you. Then you should be in pretty good luck with that.
All right. So, Mark, we asked Ian about him and what motivates him as a trainer and things like that. But let me ask you this question, Mark. So we've talked about it before on the show about why. Well, let me say this. I don't think we've talked about it in exactly this way. You had a life before Squared Away Customs, right?
Yeah.
What motive? Do you remember that? Do you remember that life? But no, what motivated you to move out of that and into being a small business owner in the firearms industry? Because you could have done something else completely different, right?
Well, kind of how it happened is I was running a shop, helping a buddy out temporarily, running a gun shop, and I had taken a step back from a sales and marketing position that I had with a large TV, radio, web development company. And the temporary position of the gun shop ended up taking quite a bit more time than we had thought, and I really enjoyed it.
Yeah,
I mean, it was a significant pay cut, and it didn't look great on the resume, but I really enjoyed it. So when that position ended, like I couldn't imagine going back to something I didn't have a passion for and doing that for work again.
Makes me sad.
I mean, that's kind of how it all started.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, that's what stemmed me to get into it, is that I really liked the idea. And I like the part about it is I like helping, I like teaching, I like talking to people, right? So all of those things. Granted, a website-based Kydex holster company, I don't get many of those things, but I do get to produce a quality product for somebody that's going to help keep them safe. I get to continue to work in the industry with a bunch of people that I really enjoy and appreciate, and have good friends. So there's lots of benefits to it, but yeah, I mean, more than anything, I really like the industry. I really like, the majority of the people are fantastic. Like anywhere, there's some tough people to deal with, but
right.
For the most part, I think we're a bunch of great people in this industry, and I think we all are fighting the same fight, and I think we all kind of know that, and I think that for the most part, everybody's on the same, direction because of that. And I think there's definitely some surface tensions and issues and stuff like that flying around this 2A community of ours, but at the end of the day, I think that we're all in for the same battle.
Well, I mean, so you and Ian, like you said, and I guess I'll include me with the podcast and other ventures I'm involved in the 2A community, but we're all in this in a different aspect, right? I mean, Ian, you're trying to give people knowledge and some stress inoculation and some competency to deal with what could be the worst day of their life. Mark, you're on another angle of it. You're trying to give them gear that is comfortable enough and practical enough that they'll actually carry the thing instead of leaving it at home, right? Because the gun left at home is meaningless. It's worthless to them if it's there and they need it. And I'm doing this thing, trying to get information out there to help people out and connect them with folks like you guys. So you're right. It is all. It all, we're all trying to push towards the same goal, just from different vantage points. So, yeah. Let me ask this, Ian. And I'm trying to be cognizant of time. We're, probably in the final stretch here before we get into a couple other, questions. But this one's kind of delicate, perhaps, and I think maybe it depends on your vantage point and who you are as to how delicate this is or how uncomfortable this question is. And I'm certainly not asking you to dog anybody or be hypercritical of anyone. So, as an instructor, you have students come in to your under your instruction, and they've maybe had instruction elsewhere. So what are some of the problems that you're seeing through the eyes and experiences of your students when it comes to the quality of training available out there? And I would imagine that there's a diverse range of quality, good and bad.
Yeah. So I feel like in this space, I talk about a lot of my classes that there's a difference between an instructor,
Yep.
and then you have the teacher.
Okay.
So the instructor is the person that just regurgitates info, sometimes off the clipboard, sometimes not, and just pushes the student through more or less like a puppy mill. Just these are the drills, how you do it, move on. There's no personal one-on-one time. It's just, going from point A to B and nothing in the middle. And not really understanding how people learn differently, maybe not being able to communicate properly in the right way. They could theoretically be awesome shooters, which I've seen in the past, people that can demo the hell out of a drill, way better shooters than me personally, but they sound like a Cro-Magnon, caveman being thought out, after thousands of years. They just don't have that communication ability, versus a teacher who understands that some people learn by watching, some people learn by doing, some people learn by you talking, and then some people learn by actually reading it somewhere, and understanding how everybody learns differently allows that person, like I said, to be not the instructor, but the teacher, and they enable to cater specifically to those individuals and give that one-on-one time. And that just comes from time, from also understanding as the teacher, being able to understand your threshold of students. So for example, for me, and again, I know everybody does everything differently, but for me, the way that I do my classes, I personally, by myself, won't do more than 12 students. That 12 is my max. I know people do more than that.
Sure.
If I have, like let's say I'm traveling, I'm going to a class in Ohio this coming June, and I've gone past capacity for that. I think I'm about 14 right now. It's not too big of a gap, but I have 2 other students in the class that will also be my extra set of eyes. So they're also teachers like myself as well, or I just know them personally and they're good shooters. And because of that, they're going to be my extra set of eyes when I'm teaching. Because again, for me, I can't keep an eye on more than 12 people. I don't feel confident in that, not only for safety reasons, but also because I don't feel like I'm able to give that personal one-on-one time and actually allow that student to get as much as they can out of the class, because I take what I do pretty seriously. Like I said earlier, I know people not only pay for the tuition, but the ammo, the gear, the travel, time away from home. They could possibly be having time off, just to relax, but also maybe they could be doing overtime to maybe pay bills that they have past due. So I take that all into consideration. And the last thing I want a student to do is leave that class and have potential unanswered questions because I wasn't able to give them my 110%. So for me, having a low number compared to most allows me to give that personal one-on-one time and again, create those relationships, not just have a number on a course roster. And on the counter side of things, again, I'm not going to point fingers or whatever, but I do know of, certain instructors out there that are doing an instructor ratio of 24 people to 1, which I think, in my opinion, is completely and 100% reckless, especially when they're charging upwards of, $700 to $800 for 2 days.
Right.
And again, I understand that people need to put food on the table at the end of the day, regardless, if you're a teacher or not. And I understand that, there are overhead costs involved with certain ranges. But I've yet to see one that causes me to have such a price increase as much as that. If you don't think that certain individual isn't in this space for the money versus the actual care of the students, you're high as a kite.
Yeah, I mean,
no matter what the excuse is, it's not safe.
Right.
Period.
Exactly.
That's right. Yeah, I mean, even in just traditional education systems, public schools and stuff, teacher to student ratio is a thing. That's a metric that parents care about. That's a metric that students care about. So it's important, right? I mean, it's absolutely important. And I think, I'll maybe I'm wrong, but I always try to be a little generous in the things that I accuse people of, especially if I'm not an expert in it. But maybe there's a case for where a higher student to instructor ratio or teacher ratio makes sense. But even then, I would be very wary of the safety aspects and then the value coming back to that student.
Exactly.
So
and like I said, once you start getting to that high number, it starts being quantity over quality, and that's the last thing that I want. So I'll take a quote unquote pay cut.
Yeah.
And not have as many students, not have a big number in my bank account, but I know I'm giving that 100% to my students. And that just comes from, not just in the firearms world, but anywhere in life with people, unfortunately, living outside of their means. And again,
Right.
I'm not here to tell you how to live your life or you're on some financial guru, but I can tell you firsthand that, especially in the gun space, I know Mark can attest to this, that there's a lot of peacocking.
Yeah.
There's a lot of, look what I have. And because of that, sometimes people inadvertently end up living outside their means, and therefore they have to counter that by, if they are in the instructor realm, have to hike up, to an enormous amount of price, and therefore having to fill the class at such a high number because they need to, like I said, fulfill that lifestyle that they're in. And personally, for me, I knew the moment that I quit my corporate job that I was never going to be a millionaire in this space.
Yeah.
I knew I was never going to own a mansion or a Lambo or have that any high living lifestyle. But what I do know is that at the end of the day, I'm able to put food on the table for my family. I'm able to put a roof over my head, and I'm able to give them a warm bed at night. And for me, that's all I care about. I don't care about the number in my bank account. As long as I'm able to live comfortably and provide for my family at the end of the day, that is all that I care about.
Man, I mean, I won't tell the listeners that you're in your Gulfstream 5 jet right now being served martinis,
Yeah,
right.
With a giant Runenation logo.
Right. Right.
Like, honestly, one day I'll have that. And
right. Yeah, man. I hope you do.
Stouts and whiskeys on tap inside the plane.
That's nice. I want to fly. I want to fly with you.
You'll have your own little ice luge in the plane that you can land.
It'll be called Rune Air.
Rune Air, right?
Yeah.
Nah, man. I mean, I'm even thinking about like corporate America. I manage a team of very smart engineers, and I've had teams as large as 16 people, and I've got a team right now that's 6 getting to be 8 people. And man, 8 is really kind of, with my newfound understanding of how much better it is to manage a smaller team. Not it's easier, but it's better. I can focus more on the individual, right? I can really get deep into what their hopes and their aspirations and their career paths are and how they're doing and what problems I can help them, address and that kind of stuff. As a leader, I want to be a coach and a mentor, I don't want to just be a guy that's like, okay, turn in your timesheet, don't bother me unless you've got a problem, and it better be a damn good problem, right? That kind of stuff. I really want to see those guys succeed. And my win, my personal, the thing that I feel like gives me value at work is when I see my guys and my ladies successful, and I see them high five each other in the hallway because they just solved a major problem and they did something great for a client. Man, that feels great. And when it's 16 people, I don't have that level of engagement with them because, man, my attention's spread thin. So, and they're not shooting at anybody or at anything as far as I know. Right. So,
yeah. And it's maybe this is kind of thinking too in depth or, maybe emblemizing it too much, but
sure.
For me, one of my other big pushers is having a date for my second death. And what I mean by that is this is a topic that was brought up by a good friend of mine, Byron Rogers. He was actually the guy I was on the podcast with a few weeks ago. On his podcast, he's a exec protection guy out of California. Very cool. Former Marine like myself. We met at SHOT, started chatting, and next thing you know, I'm on his podcast. So we started talking about that. He brought up this topic about your first, your second death. So the first death is inevitable at the end of the day. The moment you emerged from your mother's womb, you had a ticking time,
clock.
An internal clock.
Yeah.
So regardless if you want to admit it or not, we're all going to die at some point.
Right.
Some may be earlier, some may be later, but at the end of the day, you are dying each and every day that you wake up. And it's not to look at that as like a negative or to look at it as a dark way or a depressed way to live your life. It's just life.
Hey, man,
there's no way around it.
Iron Maiden, as soon as we're born, we're dying. It's a song lyric, right?
Yeah,
it's
100%. And I think that people just have a negative aspect of death, just because it's something that, like I said, it's kind of like the elephant in the room that no one wants to talk about, because it is kind of morose and the depressing topic to think about, but regardless what your opinion of it is, it exists regardless. So at some point, your physical body will die. Your second death, however, could be, it could never occur. Your second death could never occur. Your second life could be immortal as long as you're doing everything you can here in your first life to make it so. And what I mean by that is your second death, in theory, is when somebody speaks your name for the very last time.
Oh, wow.
So it could be a year, a week, however long after your physical body dies,
your legacy,
speaks your name for the very last time.
Legacy, yeah.
So for me, that is one of my greatest fears, is not doing everything I can here in this life to affect someone else's life, that my name just kind of fades out from someone's mouth or from someone's life. And I feel like, and again, it doesn't have to be any, you don't have to be a Nobel Prize, a Peace Prize winner, or, be a NASA scientist, or, have some crazy job, but it could be that one thing that you do in your job to affect your employees, to affect your team, that they remember you decades from now, long after you're nothing but bones and dust in the ground. They're like, you know what? I remember I had this boss once, David. He changed the course of my life forever. He changed how I saw myself. And now because of that, now I own my own business. I went and asked that, woman out on a date, or that guy out, or this or that. And because of that little small adaptation that you changed in their life, they're going to remember you forever.
Or
and
they could theoretically pass
your name down, to their children, children.
Yeah, that's right.
And forever. And because of that, I feel like you should always do your very best every single day to not only create change in yourself, but create a positive change in others whenever possible.
Man, yeah, I was sitting here, I was trying to remember where I'd heard this, and I don't know if this guy's the source of the quote, but, Mark, you've got kids, man. I mean, and you'll, when you're gone, you hope that your memory and your legacy and your story lives on through them. And, I know that when my dad passed, I've tried daily to remember him and speak his name, even if only to myself, and keep him alive. And the quote that I was trying to remember was, "No one is actually dead until the ripples they cause in the world die away." Right. And it's kind of like,
good.
Our dead are, and another one, another guy said, our dead are never dead to us until we have forgotten them. And, what you're saying, Ian, is, live such and invest in other people such that you're remembered and that you have a legacy.
Exactly.
Right.
And it's not to say, to feed an ego, or, it's not for me. It's for the sense of that I want to create such positive change in an individual that it fundamentally changes the course of their life.
Right.
So that they can become a better individual, so that they can find that potential confidence they thought was once lost.
That's
so
awesome.
That they're able, to run a gun, but now they're able to, go up for that promotion.
Yeah.
Or they're able to, like I said, ask, that woman out on a date, or they're able to have a better connection with their son or their daughter.
Yeah.
And it's through that aspect of proper training, of, putting individuals in uncomfortable positions and allow them to find comfort in it, that it can make you a better and stronger individual overall.
Yeah. Or maybe de-escalate that situation verbally, and then go on to be to throw that ball with with their kid or whatever.
Absolutely.
And be that example in their life. Right. So, yeah. So, all right, last question. Well, second to last, I lied. Here's what I want to know. Mark and Ian, both of you guys, how do you feel like the internet and social media have changed being in the firearms industry, whether as a provider of goods, or, like you, Mark, or as a provider of services like you, Ian, good or bad? So Mark, why don't you go first? How has social media and the internet changed being in the industry?
Well, if you want to be a sponge and just absorb a plethora of knowledge, you're able to do that really easily now.
Yeah.
The problem there lies, it's much harder to essentially vet the knowledge that you're taking in.
Yeah.
So there's so much out there, and there's so much stimulus, and you just look at it all, and you just you know what I mean. You can kind of go bonkers.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that at the end of the day, it's probably more good than bad. I think it keeps us all more sharp than we'd be without it. It keeps us all trying to engage. It keeps us all trying to learn, and probably questioning things more.
Right.
But I think that you just need to do it kind of with one eye at the BS meter, thinking like, I may not always be getting the truth from the internet.
Yeah.
Type of thing. You know what I mean?
Right,
And I think as long as you're doing that, I think that you'd probably be in pretty good shape in the long run.
Yeah.
And that kind of goes the same with knowledge as it does with products. Not all products are created equal. Not all products are a good idea for you to have. Just because somebody's telling you that it's good doesn't mean that it is good. I think
that's an interesting. I mean, really, I was thinking, what really jumped out at me there, and there was a lot. I mean, a lot of wisdom there. But, for me, I heard have a healthy dose of skepticism. Not everything good or everything bad you hear about a good or a product, a product or a service or a person is true, right? So be skeptical. Have your eye on that BS meter and
be
try
aware, just like anything else.
Try it for yourself. Try that.
Yeah.
Try that instructor, try that product, try that gun, try that service for yourself and make your own decision. Don't listen to what the talking heads and the faceless voices on the internet are saying. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Ian, what about you, man? Good or bad? What do you think how's it affecting, and social media, how's it affecting being in the training industry?
I think kind of to echo what Mark said, it's a mix of good and bad.
Yeah.
It's a mix of good because, as Mark had stated, it's if you know where to look, basically free information at your fingertips. Years ago, you would just be able to get articles out of magazines, which still do exist. But nowadays, you can go on YouTube and basically search, how to reload a pistol, and obviously you'll find 20 or 50 videos, and obviously everyone's gonna have a different way to do it. But at the end of the day, you're able to get a free video of how to do it if for whatever reason you aren't able to attend a class, whether, you don't have proper funds, or there isn't a class around you because you live out in the sticks, or, you work third shift, you don't have time to take off for the class, or
right.
Whatever the reason, there is, information out there, but it comes down to being able to sift through the nonsense and the good. And that just comes through doing your due diligence to do the proper research, going online, looking at after action reviews of the class and seeing what people had to say about it, talking to other people, that you may know that may have attended the class and seeing that their review of it. The real big downside is that because of social media, it's been able to have the ability for people to create like a facade for themselves so that they're able to portray themselves as one thing on social media, but in reality, they're anything but that, or if anything, they're the opposite.
Right.
And because these people that are, following them on, let's say, Instagram or whatever, may not meet them in person, they think that, they're X, where in reality, they're really Y. And again, because of that, inability to be able to fact check that, it just allows people that like have a dual identity, or in my opinion, just be bipolar, of being able to show one thing on social media, but in reality be completely something else. And because of that as well, with pretty much all these big name people with lots of following, and because of that, and again, going back to what I was talking about before, because of social media, people really only listen to people that have, thousands of followers. They really won't listen to the person that has, 137 followers.
Right.
Which again, it's kind of a double-edged sword, because that person that has a small following, could be a nobody or whatever, or maybe they're, they've had 20 years, in, a military law enforcement capacity. And they just start on social media and they have a small following, but the average person doesn't know that, but they want to follow somebody else that has, 50.3 thousand.
Right.
but all they do is, push codes or whatever else all day, and they have no real legitimacy in the training space. But because of they show videos of themselves doing techniques or whatever, the average person that's coming into the gun industry is going to see that as quality information, regardless if they have a background or not, or they have teaching ability based solely on the followers that they have. And because of that, they mimic what that individual is doing a lot of the time. And you'll see a lot of people that I encounter that will have the top of the line guns and gear and, kit, plate carriers, drop leg holsters, drop-in triggers, this, that, the whole nine. But they had yet to be to a class. When I asked them, they said, I can't afford a class. It's like, dude, if you sold even a quarter of that stuff, you'd be able to fit in
right.
any day.
Yeah.
But because of that, and that's just a natural human tendency to want aesthetic things, to have materialistic items, to want to buy and show off things versus the software portion of it, being able to go to a class and actually take in the information, because you can't really show off a class. You can show off a certificate, but you can't really show off anything else. You
or
can
your
show
performance or whatever. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. You can't, you can, however, show off your new rifle or your new optic or whatever else to your friends, even though you may have zero idea how to use it.
Right.
Well, not only show it off, but you can, it's tangible. You can play with it after the class is over.
Sure.
Exactly.
Before the class starts, you can clean it. You can obsess over it. You can hang it on the wall and look at it. You can do all of those things. And I get that. But I 100% agree with your angle.
Yeah, I mean, I'll throw in one thing, and I may be trending towards the negative on this, and I hate to be Debbie Downer, but yeah, I think that the thing that I've noticed from the periphery, at least, is that the internet and social media have made it incredibly easy to engage in character assassination, right? I mean, and I see it all the time. We've seen it. You see it about the NRA. I don't like the NRA is doing, so I'm going to go after them with both barrels. I'm going to assassinate their character. I don't like what this politician is doing because they didn't completely support my thing. I don't like what this guy's, this gun tuber, said about my favorite firearm, and I'm going to assassinate him. Or I don't like this trainer because he doesn't teach the way I would teach or whatever. And you see it everywhere. And
well, go ahead. I can totally, sorry to interrupt. I can totally speak to that because there'll be an instance of we made a holster in flat dark earth instead of coyote brown, and we get an email saying, hope your business fails.
Right.
People just come unglued on me.
Colorblind idiots
and hope your business fails so you can't feed your family type of emails.
Right.
Because we made a slight different shade of brown.
Right.
And, wouldn't you know it, I get that guy on the phone, and by the time a 5-minute phone conversation is over, they're like, wow, I'm really sorry.
And then thanking you.
That.
Right.
Thanks so much for calling. And I never expected to receive a call.
Yeah.
So why the hell are you talking to me that way?
Right.
Why would you immediately go to guns?
Right.
And it's because the internet has totally ruined what you or I know of customer service.
Right.
And everybody feels like they're dealing with an Amazon because they're buying off a website.
Yep. Yeah. I think it's a shame. And what I would encourage our listeners to do is be the change that you want to see in the world. And even if you don't want to see it, I want to see it. Be the change that David wants to see in the world. I want people to just slow their roll when it comes to assassinating the character of businesses and people and trainers and organizations and stuff like that, and do your own research and then make a decision. Don't just be quick to grab a pitchfork and join the angry mob. And that's the thing that pisses me off so much about the internet, is that a person can decide they don't like you or your message or wherever, and then just try to destroy you. I mean, I've seen people make a statement on the internet that maybe was stupid, but they didn't deserve to lose their job in an industry that, oh, by the way, was completely unrelated to whatever that subject was that was being discussed on Facebook, get put in the poorhouse because, the internet mobilized and went after them with all barrels blazing and just wrecked their life. And I think that is complete and utter crap. So anyway, man, I almost got through an episode without a rant, and now I feel good. So anyway, all right. Last question, positive note. Here's what I want to ask you. Mark, last but not least, what do you do when you're not feeling motivated? And I figure everybody experiences this sooner or later. So how do you get back in the groove?
I take a break. I
Okay.
step back. Whatever I'm doing, whatever I'm involved in, I take a break and I go have some time to myself and maybe a drive. Maybe go to the range. I have the range real close. I need some sort of a wall, a stop, a disconnect. And I need to go do something that is me, whether it's drive down the road and play some ridiculously loud hair band from when I was a kid that makes me happy, you know what I mean? Or go to the range.
Mac?
Like what?
Fleetwood Mac.
Fleetwood Mac. How'd you know? I was thinking Sticks. Sticks, I was thinking. But
Heck yeah, man. Yeah, a little guilty pleasure, a little Nickelback on the radio. Yeah.
You're right.
God, no, I can say that.
How dare you say Nick? You're going to have to beep that out. You're going to have to bleep that out.
Right.
Yeah, I think I got to leave now.
Right, yeah. Yeah, man.
You should bleep it out just for the fun of it.
Right, yeah. Make it a new curse word on the show.
But no, just the disconnect and do something that I actually enjoy. And because not a lot gets me down. I'm pretty thick when it comes to staying on point and staying on target.
Yeah.
But when it does happen, and that's what I need to do. I need to go for a ride. I need to go to the range. I need to go do something that I can enjoy, something that will literally take my mind off of what I'm thinking about that's got me in the gutter.
Right.
And get me back on point. And 5 minutes sometimes like an hour. Sometimes it takes a day.
Could take a week or so, right? So yeah.
So that's what's important to me, and that's the way I need to kind of reset a little bit. That's what I do.
Right. That's awesome. So Ian, what about you, man? What do you do to recenter yourself or to remotivate other than frozen streams?
Yeah. So outside of sitting in frozen streams, I guess it, like kind of similar to Mark, it takes a lot of things, or, it'll take a lot for me to really bring me down.
Yeah.
But, when it really gets difficult, I kind of have to, realize that in the end, like as it's been said in the past, motivation will sometimes die, but you have to allow discipline to take its place.
Good point.
So, there'll be some days where I get down in the gym and I'm just not in the mood. Like, even though I post about it and, a big proponent of physical activity, there's some mornings where I wake up and I just want nothing to do with it, but I still push through with it. I may not want to do it, but in the end, I understand the greater good and the discipline of it, the regimen of what I do carries me through when that motivation may be fizzling out. And in the grander scheme of things, people can be more than welcome to believe in whatever higher being that they want. But I feel like when those really difficult times come upon us, I kind of view it as a test for whoever and whatever that you believe in. It's a test to seeing if you're going to get on your knees and crumble.
Right.
And when those times come, I say to myself, I refuse. I refuse to allow somebody to have control over me and to try to force me to get on my knees and surrender. And when it's all said and done, on the other end of those difficult times are greater times. It's all an ebb and flow of balance. Like for me, just recently, obviously I had that less than stellar time at the airport. But I knew that when it was all said and done, and I was going to get back home at some point, that there was going to be some good to become of it. And because of that, just recently as of today, the greater good of it was, getting 100% out of debt outside of the mortgage I have for my house. So there is some greater good to any negative that comes with it. Now, do I believe that there is such thing as fate, free will? No, but I do believe that there is a healthy balance of both, that there is some things that are fated to come our way, but we do have the free will of being able to decide to either go with it or to or to make change. That's a whole different topic to talk about with all that, but that's just my kind of.
That's awesome, man. No, I think very key statement there. Discipline takes over when motivation runs out. Right. I mean, that's very key. Yeah. Thinking about the old pseudo Latin, faux Latin, illegitimi non carborundum, never let the bastards grind you down. Right. I mean, that's it. Right.
Absolutely.
Dig in deep, you set your stance wide, dig in, and just, prepare for the fight. And that's awesome. So very cool. Ian, before we close up the show today, let's make sure everybody knows how they can find you on the internet and how they can connect with you and learn about your classes and things like that coming up. Right. So hit us with the website address.
Sure. It's runenationllc.com. On there. It's pretty self-explanatory. I have my course calendar up there. Everything's up to date on there in regards to the dates I have from now all the way out till November of this year. And again, it's pretty easy to navigate. Along with that, I also have an option for remote coaching. So for those of you who can't make it to a class, or for those that can't financially afford it, or like I said, they have an odd work schedule, it basically allows an option for people that can train in the safety and comfort of their own home. It's very high percentage based on dry fire with very limited live fire for obvious reasons. The reason that they're taking the actual remote coaching is because they can't get to the range. So there's an option for that. Along with that, I recently created my own cold start target that's available for free printout on my website. Basically, the idea of a cold start is, showing up to the range, pasting up the target, and going after it. No warm-ups, no dry fire, because as my good friend Teddy has said in the past, you're only as good as your last cold start. Because in that moment when you need to defend yourself, those that you love, your teammate, partner, whoever it may be, you're going to have to be able to perform, on demand at that high performance level, and get those, good accurate shots on target. So the target that I developed a total of 16 rounds for a best case scenario run. And like I said, it's free printout, so you can just print it out on 8.5 by 11 computer paper, and that's free for printout. So that's on the website. For my Instagram, it's at Runenation LLC. Twitter, Runenation LLC. I really don't use Twitter too much. I just have it as a link to my Instagram. And then my Facebook is just simply Runenation. And then my email is runenationllc@gmail.com as well.
Isn't there like a hashtag crazy New Hampshire ice river man or something like that?
No, there's hashtag no one is coming to save you.
Right. Hashtag New Hampshire walrus or something like that.
Hashtag city and frozen rivers.
Hashtag. Yeah. Man, believe it or not, I've printed your target out and I shot at it last time. And the one, the aiming point on there that drove me nuts, and I cannot explain it in any freaking way, is the triangle in the lower left corner. And I was running a red dot. So
those shapes are randomized between an inch and an inch and a half.
Yeah.
So they're purposely have inconsistency.
Oh, interesting. Well, I'm glad to know that now. Because I was about ready to throw the Glock at the triangle the last time I did it, and I was like,
it's certainly not the Glock's fault.
No, it's not the Glock's fault at all, right? It's I'm completely comfortable with that, but I was like, what am I doing? Am I driving it down? What am I doing? And if I slowed down, I was better. And I was like, okay, fine, whatever. It's time.
All about that throttle, man.
It's all about the throttle. Yeah, I admit that triangle. Me and it are going to tangle again this weekend, so I'm going after it. So. Yeah. Awesome. Dude, thank you again for coming on. It's always a pleasure to speak with you. I know the guests love having you on, and it's just a pleasure, right? So come back again sometime soon. There was like 34 episodes between the last time we talked to you and now. So we can't do that again. We got to do it again soon.
No.
So
absolutely.
Awesome. Mark, how about you, man? How do folks connect with you after the show?
As always, go save some money on some Kydex using Shooter Nation coupon code at squaredawaycustoms.com. If you want to reach out to me directly, you can get me at mark@shootersnationradio. Shootersnation.com.
Shootersnation.com.
Mark at shootersnation.com. This email address is so new to me. I I still forget sometimes.
Like, I remember to send you an email there, and I was like, I don't know if he'll even see it. So yeah,
I did see it.
Did you? Awesome.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So that's
Yeah,
great.
I saw it.
All right. So folks, special thanks to all of you who are patrons of the show and you directly support us and make future episodes possible. We really appreciate that. If that's not you and it sounds like a good idea, you can support. I'm dying, man. You're wrecking my vibe. Like, you're trying to wreck Ian's vibe. You're wrecking mine now with all these pictures you're putting up on the screen. Oh my God, Mark. So if you want to support the show, you can do that by visiting shootersnation.com and looking for the donate button. Shooters Nation logoed apparel and all that kind of fun stuff is over at the Shooters Nation store. We definitely want to hear from you. Let us know what you want to hear about on the show. Find the ideal link on our website, click it, fill out the form, send us some info, tell us what's up, tell us how we're doing. If we suck at this, we want to hear, but if we're doing good, we want to hear that too. So anyway, that is an amazing rotating wallpaper thing that you got going on there, Mark. It's really distracting. So anyway, connect with us over at shootersnation.com. Be sure to sign up for the Mail Blast mailing list while you're there. I'm done. I'm not even going to read the rest of this crap. You guys have heard it. Mark, you're killing me. You're just killing me, Smalls. So Ian, glad to have you. Mark, always a pleasure. Ian, thank your wife for tolerating you being with us tonight. Yeah, I see her over there on the camera. So hi.
Definitely thank her.
All right. Yeah. All right, everybody. That's it. That's a wrap. Everybody be safe out there. We'll talk to you again soon.
The preceding segment was a production of the Shooters Nation podcast. Visit us online at shootersnation.com.